How are you?
Well, thank you.
What a song.
Oh, thanks, Ben.
Tell me about it.
Well, it's kind of one of those songs that I didn't know if I was going to put on the record or not, actually. So,
Why not?
um, well, it just seems like a little too listenable sometimes. So I don't know if it's a tendency to shoot myself in the foot or what it is, but I usually leave that stuff off the record. So, but I liked the song, and I liked, I'm kind of like trying to talk about just the fear I see in people for their lack of understanding for others and how that creates hatred.
Where's that in that song?
Now you're pouring out your hate in every difference you found, and you won't even listen to reason at all. I'm not questioning your faith, far be it from me, but you would speak of love while tying one's hands. Sort of in there.
Yeah, is it ever?
Which I see that, there's this sort of fear and hatred for things that we don't understand. And then also, people who speak out of their love for their religions, but at the same time, we have kids in cages at borders. So I don't really understand that. And if somebody, says they follow religious ideas because of love, because of the love that is in those texts, then I don't see any love in that. So I just kind of trying to question the people that would speak that way, I guess.
Especially a faith that you're surrounded by, I guess, in your neck of the woods. That
and I grew up with all of that as well.
You grew up in the church?
Yeah, I did. But I mean, I guess probably when I was 18 and I started to do some missionary work, then I realized pretty quickly that it wasn't what I wanted to do, and then I kind of saw the just sort of the dogma in it, and also the how history is just continuing to repeat itself. And in my case, we were working with Hopi Native Americans and trying to convince them that this character they believe in their stories is the same as this Jesus Christ figure. And I was like, well, isn't that what all the other conquerors did? You take away what people believe in, you take away their culture, and you alienate them and isolate them, and then you, eventually create them and shape them into the person you want them to be. You take nomadic people and try to make them farmers. Yeah. It doesn't really work.
It's colonialism. What did you learn? Did you have this sort of dark night of the soul, like this sort of epiphanous moment while you were out doing the missionary work?
I did, yeah. So
it's a hard time for it.
Yeah, well, then I even kind of just started questioning the existence of God, and then now I don't really know where I stand with as far as I don't really worry about existence, and I don't really, I still have a lot of family who are very religious, and so if they say they pray for me, I know it's out of love, and I appreciate that, but I never, come down on them for I don't think people is ignorant because of their beliefs. I think it's fine to have different beliefs, and I guess that's also what that song is talking about too. So
it's interesting to talk to you, and interesting to hear this music because, how do I put this? I think I intellectually knew of that you had other music than the Night Sweats.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here in Canada, that was certainly. I mean, the SOB thing was certainly our introduction to you in a lot of ways.
Right. The record did really well here.
Yeah, did it ever?
I was hoping to be an honorary citizen, but I never got the keys to the city. So.
We're going to candid camera you on the way out of here.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. We're going to have Justin Trudeau outside with a flag pin.
Sweet.
Yeah, you're never getting out of here. We're going to lock
Wonderful.
We're going to quarantine you here. You're not going anywhere.
You'd be dumped in Molson's and
So it was interesting to hear. Not just that you were making different kind of music here, which I intellectually knew that you were making other music before the Night Sweats, that it was a little bit more acoustic guitar-ish. It was a little bit more introspective, and it was a little bit more based around the folk music. But I guess I'm curious as to why a solo album now?
I think there was a lot of things that I wanted to talk about, and also just different types of songs that I wanted to be able to write and sort of experience the process of trying to figure them out. And I know that's not what the Night Sweats are. And so...
Night Sweats are a party.
Yeah, or, something like that. Yeah. and I wanted, I have a vision for what I see Night Sweats doing, which I'm not going to share right now, but because I haven't quite figured it out, and that usually changes. But and initially, I thought this wouldn't really be much of a record that I had a whole lot of focus drawn to. When Richard and I were going to do it together, and I saw it as being kind of, we talked about doing it the way he approached the Damien Gerardo records,
This is Richard Swift.
Richard Swift,
Yeah.
So, who's our producer for the Night Sweats, and he passed away. So initially, we had talked about doing this. Like, I had shared him songs like All or Nothing, and he really liked sort of the Harry Nilsson kind of approach to the song, and was excited to work on it. But I really thought, what he did with Damien Gerardo was like Damien brings in songs, and he'd basically make the record in a day. And they record all of Damien on guitar and vocal, and then Richard just kind of he'll just stay up all night, like arranging stuff. And so that's kind of what I thought we would do, and then it would just be kind of like a buddy record, like, oh, Nathaniel and Richard just put this record out, and then like tour for 6 months. But we went back to his studio after he'd passed. It'd been quite a while since he'd passed. It was March of 2019. And we had 8 days there, and I thought that the record would get done in those 8 days, and I was trying to aim to get like 10 to 12 songs in 8 days. And of course it didn't. And I was just Patrick Meese, who plays drums in the Night Sweats, and then James Barone, who plays drums in Beach House. But so we went out there, and I was using those two guys as kind of like helping me produce the record. And and really they have way more knowledge of that stuff than I do. But we all worked with Richard, and so I thought the three of us would be able to get it done. But then we didn't get it done in those 8 days, because I was hoping to release this record in record in March, release in October, and then be making another Night Sweats record right now. So, but that's not how things worked out. So
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, Andrew, we had a conversation. Dallas Green, City in Color.
Mm-hmm. I hung out with him last night.
Lovely guy, hey?
Hey, Dallas, if you're listening.
He's going through something similar to what you're going through.
Mm.
We talked about this the other week on the show. He lost someone like that close to him, someone who was sure they were going to make a record together.
Right.
And then they were going to, and he was also, we worked monitors for him and was kind of part of his artistic vision. I'm sure you guys had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about Richard?
Yeah.
What was he like?
He's just a funny dude. I mean, like, I've never laughed so much, he's just a goof. And I think that's like kind of something that not everybody brings into the studio, because there's always this like pressure that in order to make a record that's going to be life-changing, it has to be like this grueling, life-changing experience. But, our experiences together were really just like, okay, we really have to like focus on getting this song done today, and then we can screw off for the rest of the day. Which is basically what we did. Yeah, we'd watch like Windy City Heat and stupid stuff, and
Listen, we have to get this introspective song down so we can watch a few GIFs.
Exactly. Yeah. Or just start listening to like old 45s and like getting stoned. So that was a lot of what we did. So
right.
But then also, like Richard, like he just kind of had this light about him. And he kind of just lit up the room, and he was like, the guy that everybody wanted to be around sometimes, and he also just had, he could take a mediocre song and make it sound great, and that just by, just kind of the way he heard things, and so I've always really admired his melodic sense. So.
Yeah, I was sad to hear it when I was reading about the record, and I'm. Only talk about this as much as you want, but it made me think about all the friends I have who I've as a musician, right, and some people I've toured with, and who I've lost and we've lost from drinking,
right.
From complications from an addiction,
right,
to alcohol, and it's such an unfortunate, easily accessible, sad part of the work.
It is, yeah. Even on the lower level, when you're like in a van, you like may not get a free meal, but you'll definitely get some free drinks, and I think at some point it just becomes like a part of the routine. But if you're not careful, it becomes like kind of the focus And then it's like, how do I get to the next drink, you know? And it's not really about the career or, you know, the emotion behind it. It just becomes, and especially with bands like the Night Sweats, you know, people show up to party. Like, they're like, you know, maybe they like got a babysitter or, you know, or it's their one night off and they're like, I'm going for it tonight, you know? And then if they run into any of us, they expect the same thing out of us. And it's like, I'm not really here for that anymore, you know? So.
It's not easy. I know there's a great band from Newfoundland called Great Big Sea who are kind of, actually they're half big in your neck of the woods too.
Okay.
Down around Colorado, but more in that Telluride, you know, that thing, the acoustic music thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're from Newfoundland, and we have a reputation as being a bit of a party band too. In fact, I just read a book by one of the guys in the band who was talking about how hard it is to be sober when you're in a band like that. Because you go out, your songs are kind of about drinking.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's an expectation that you're gonna.
Yeah, people are like, let me buy you a drink. I'm like, no, I'm fine with the one I have.
Yeah, you're working.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, yeah. I and it's often the people, as you mentioned, what stuck with me is when you said he was the life of the party, or he had like a joy about him. He was a buoyant,
Right.
you know. I felt it's often folks like that I would never expect to have problems with the booze, you know.
Right, and you know, maybe there was some other things going on there too. You know, it all ends up being the same thing. It all ends up being like kind of an escape, you know. And then it just, you know, the you're trying to like figure everything out, and it causes this void inside of you that you can't seem to get away from. And that void it only seems to be continually filled by the same thing that creates it, you know.
Yeah,
So.
man. Again, I'm so sorry.
Oh, well, thank you.
How are you finding? How are you finding touring, playing this music? How are you finding being on stage without with an audience that knows you from doing one thing and doing something very different?
It's very, you know, we're just kind of getting started. Really, this is like tonight will be our 6th show. And so it's varied city to city. And emotionally, I haven't really got to get to where I want to be, like emotionally on stage, just because there's a lot going on still that we're trying to figure out.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, the more comfortable I get with the stage setting, and there's 10 of us on stage, and there's a lot going on, and so once I have my own level of comfortability, I guess, I feel like I'll be able to be a little more emotive, and I think I still am now, but not as much as I'd like to be, you know. So
Yeah, I mean, you're singing about heavy stuff in this record. You're singing
Yeah.
about divorce. You're singing about all these, you know, you're singing about the differences between humans and stuff like that. And I would understand that it would be hard to access that if you're also worried about whether the monitor's ringing too much or whether your in-ears are working. Or
yeah,
whether
there's a lot going on, and so I feel like a bit of the conductor as well, and so it's a weird position to be in. But, you know, I have a great, you know, most of the guys are from the Night Sweats, and we have a quartet with us that are all Denver, you know, Colorado musicians, and some of them tour with Gregory Alan Isikoff, who's a good friend of ours, and so
Great songwriter.
they're not new to any of this, and it's, you know, it's just been band and crew. We kind of have this big, like, kind of family feeling. And so I feel like the quartet as an addition kind of jumps right into that, you know, and
Yeah.
everybody's already like pretty lovey-dovey immediately. Like week one, it's like nothing but hugs. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
great, you know. So
It's funny. I think there's a version of this interview where we talk about risk. You know what I mean? Like there's a version of this interview where you have someone come and we know you from having a big party, you know, R&B band, and then you come up and do, you know, a more introspective acoustic set.
Right.
There's a conversation about risk to be had. But it's funny. I was thinking on the way in why I don't feel it with you, and help me out here. So I've been thinking that you had a really solid kind of local career, kind of a fan base before the Night Sweats broke,
Right.
before Son of a broke, or SOB broke, because they're going to edit that, before SOB broke. And if I'm not mistaken, that kind of rocket to fame happened later in life for you than for most.
right, thankfully.
That's what I mean. I think you're unafraid to, you know, to take those kind of risks or even to perceive them as risks because you're not 21, because you had a career before.
Right. Well, and like I said, with this record, my intentions were for it to, kind of be a record of, really just making songs that I'm interested in, and I guess figuring out and being a part of. So to get a good response from the record, then it's like, oh well, I guess maybe I am doing the right thing by listening to myself. So I try to bring that on the stage when, like, I think there's still some folks showing up who, didn't read the large print, not even the fine print, that this isn't a Night Sweats tour.
They have
and when it's
they have
like,
a lampshade on their head, yeah.
And when it's Friday night in Chicago and they're hammered, and it's like a bachelorette party who thinks they're going to a Night Sweats show, I think they're a little disappointed, even if they're enjoying it, but it's not what they're like, oh, there's nothing but seats in here.
And you're cool with that? You can handle that?
I'm, part of having a show like this is also trying to figure out your banter in between things, or not talking at all, or what you're going to do. So it's basically like I'm just writing my own comedy routine right now for the in-between stuff on how to deal with hecklers. And Damien Gerardo opened up for us the other night in Chicago, and people were hooting and hollering, and he was just like, you came to the wrong show. And I was like, that is the best answer for somebody who's like, yeah, woo! Like, yeah, you don't need to do that here, actually. It's cool. You can just clap at the end, and then we're good.
Yeah.
Just let me know that you liked it by clapping, but hollering is just really kind of an annoying distraction. So.
You don't need to spray champagne at me while I sing this song.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand.
So,
It's a very hopeful record.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I try to write especially with the topics that I'm talking about in this album, just being real about the hardships, or how hard they are to go through. But it's like, I guess the question for me, and part of the process of and healing from all of this, and making music a healing thing, is how do we find hope in all of that? How do you continue to find joy? Is it a choice, or is it more than that?
Where'd you get?
I'm still figuring it out. I mean, I know it's a choice to try to find joy, and to strive for that, and to find something good to come out of all of it. Because and part of me has to, because I think about Richard every day, so I want to think that there's something good in the end of all of that.
It's been lovely to meet you.
Same.